briefly. One is that the decentralized technologies can allow to include diverse populations in clinical research, and therefore increased diversity will improve the applicability of study results. We know that minorities are significantly underrepresented in clinical trials. Women, the elderly, people of color only represent 1 to 5% in clinical trials, while they represent 39 of the US population. So it's a very small number. And ODAC is another one that I wanted to use an example as. ODAC, Oncology Drug Advisory Committee meeting that was held in February 22. It was Orient 11 study, exclusively conducted in China. And it's sintilimab plus a chemo for lung cancer. So FDA was concerned that when the drug company with the partner wanted to penetrate the US market with a phase 3 trial study done exclusively in China, they're concerned over the generability of Orient 11 to a US population and US medical practice. And so this would have been a good example. I know this study was done a while ago, and diversity inclusion was not in all of our radar at the time before pandemic. And so one of the advantage of the DCT is really to help include the diverse populations, because it can reach many patients around the globe. The second one is it provides the convenience, the positive patient experience, and which will then drive the quality, data quality and retention and enrollment. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about that one with the data that was recently released. So for example, according to the Forbes Technology Council post dated in 21, more than 70% of our populations live more than 2 hours away from the research sites. So it's quite a burdensome for patients to drive to research center. And approximately about 50% of our clinical trials need to extend their recruitment periods. Earlier, I talked about the recruitment challenges, how the studies are becoming more complex. And there's a competition around the world with the clinical trials being 430-some thousand number of clinical trials that are ongoing in the world versus 2,000 in year 2000. And 37% sites fail to meet their enrollment targets, and then recruitment delays can cost the revenue of $600,000 to $8 million per day. It's quite staggering. And so the decentralized clinical trials can ease the pain, ease the burden of the patients. And in many ways, it could also provide some flexibility with site visits, reduced site visits. Televisits is one thing that has been popular. And real-time consent data tracking is also advantage of the DCT. And so there are many positive advantages that are available, that are there. The downside of it is that, number one, it's costly, it's expensive. It is expensive. You can easily add on feature and another tab and another services, and it could easily go $1 million, and it's quite expensive. Sometimes we're faced with, do we do a clinical trial, or do we do a vendor? Do we hire a vendor to help us with the DCT? How do we balance the need and wants? And how do we help with the drive the enrollment, engagement, and so on? So the downside is that it's costly, and number two is that it's not for everybody. So DCT, for example, the televisits are great when you have a study visit to have patients read their physical exams or vital signs or ECGs. But any protocol trials that is complex, you don't want the patients to come in, or you don't want to see patients on a televisit basis when it's a complex procedure